Now we come to the end of our series on life everlasting, on death, dying and the future hope. This one's entitled The Judging Process, and it's all to do with the way in which God judges, the end time judgment particularly. And while we all too often have feelings of fear, of concern that these ideas and these images evoke, I would suggest that we go back and think about how Jesus represents God and that he is God. He shows us what God is like, and that we have nothing to fear in the judgment as we follow him. God is not a vindictive policeman trying to impose penalties. He's trying to save us. Jesus says, I didn't come into the world to judge it. I came into the world to save it. Yes, in the end, there has to be a process of separation, the sheep and the goats, that Jesus talks about there in Matthew 25. And he rewards everybody according to what they've done. That's very interesting as well. When you look at Matthew 25, it doesn't say, I'm going to judge you on your theology. We need to read that chapter very carefully, because it's saying it's what you've done, especially to the least of these, my brethren, how you've cared for the poor, those who are sick, those who are imprisoned, and all the rest of that. That's the actions that are important in God's eyes. How have you lived your life? Has it been a life of blessing to others? Have you tried to show God's love in all that you do? And that, to me, is a very different perspective than trying to weigh up some kind of even good theology, bad theology, or I follow this person, I follow that person. You remember Paul spoke about that as well. Now, in the judgment, it's God not only judging whether you have acted unwisely and wrongly, but whether you've acted rightly and justly. We all too often see judgment as simply a judgment to the negative. That's how our legal system works, and that's how we tend to see the law as condemning. But in God's judgment, he is vindicating. He is judging that you have done right. And he says to those who've done right, come, you blessed of my Father, those of you who have done what is good, and welcomes them into an eternity. So I think the first thing we need to really concentrate on is that judgment is not negative. Yes, it's a recognition at the end that bad is bad and good is good, and those who've chosen to follow their own sinful, wicked ways are going to experience the end result, which is God giving them what they've asked for, to live separately from him, which of course is impossible. He's the source of life, and they cut themselves off from the source of life, and he's weeping over them, saying, why will you die? Why do I have to give you up? I can't give you up. I don't want to give you up, but that's your choice. And if that's what you really want, I will allow you to have that kind of consequence, because this is your choice, because God values nothing higher than the individual freedom that he gives to every thinking being in the universe. He is not compelling. He's not saying, you better do as you're told, or there's going to be problems in the judgment for you. He will let you know that there are consequences which are the natural consequences of your action. He's not saying, love me or I'll kill you. That's not what God is all about. He's trying to win you to do what's right, because he knows that's what's best for you. It's not about even pleasing God, although we often say it that way. God gives us all these gifts to try and help us. What is prayer for? Is that to convince God, or is that to help us? What is giving offerings for? Is that to help God? No, he doesn't need our money. It's to prove that we are not selfish people. All those kinds of things that God gives to us as ways of demonstrating who we are inside are helpful to us. God wants us to live in harmony with him, recognizing that right is right, that wrong is wrong, and we wouldn't choose to live any other way. May Lord help us to do exactly that.